The video game industry is on fire. If you haven't heard, Xbox or Microsoft has parted ways with several game development studios, including Compulsion Gaming, which put out South of Midnight, which was an interesting game. It wasn't my cup of tea, and I don't think it was meant to capture a large audience. Just look at the game. It doesn't look like a lot of people would get out of their seat and want to go play South of Midnight. I'm sure it was fine. I never played it, so I can't really give you too much of a critique of it. I've watched people play it, and that's about it. They're also closing Ninja Theory, the studio behind the Hellblade series, which they just showed a trailer of, um, which is a very old strategy, Cotton. I mean, you're showing a trailer, and then the next day, yeah, actually, just disregard all that because they're gone. They're gone. They're out of here. So they closed Ninja Theory, and they also closed Double Fine, which I'll be honest, I have no idea if they've even produced anything. I thought they were behind the. Let's see. Let's get an answer real quick. Double Fine is behind Psychonauts. Okay, they haven't really produced anything. I don't think there was any Psychonauts projects coming out, but correct me if I'm wrong. Regardless, Psychonauts is a legendary property, and you would think that would be a valuable uh, team to hold on to, especially if they're working on something. But no, they closed that studio as well. If you remember a few years ago, back in 2018, Xbox was just snapping up all of these game studios, just one after another, dropping a boatload of cash right in front of these studio heads and saying, "We want you to develop games for Xbox because we need to get product onto Game Pass." So they were shelling out cash left and right, trying to win the arms race. And we're seeing the ramifications of doing that. They're not producing games at a rate that justifies having all those studios. But my major question is I believe they bought around 22 studios and you're not seeing any production. Now, at least like Compulsive Games has put out South of Midnight. Now, sure, was it a critical success or was it a commercial success? No, but it wasn't that type of game. Ninja Theory put out the Hellblade trailer. At least they had something coming. Like they had something. It was almost release time, but no, they cut ties with it. And the thing that Xbox needs most right now, and I'm a huge look, I was a huge Xbox fan. I loved my 360 dearly. I loved Halo. I loved Gears. I loved it all. And they shit the bed with Dan Matrick or Matic, whatever the hell that bozo's name was, who talked about, well, if you don't have internet, there's a system for that. It's called the 360.
Product for people who aren't able to get some form of connectivity. It's called Xbox 360.
Right. Well, what an absolute buffoon. But before I get sidetracked on a tangent, they need games. That's always been the big critique. Xbox will say, "Oh, well, we have a better online service. We have more fluid menus, this, that, and the other. We have Halo, but you don't have any games. You don't have a lot of games coming to the system. So shit canning developers that actually put out games is kind of a bad idea. Now, Asha, the new head of Xbox that I've made videos on in the past, seemed to be steering the ship in the right direction. Correcting the price on Game Pass or trying to find its anchor point or whatever you want to call it. They had jumped up the price 50%. So bringing it down was, kind of it's a strategy. They were trying to find what they could get away with. 50% was too much, so drop it. They still raised it overall. They weren't doing us any favors there. But she seemed to be steering it in the right direction, saying a lot of things that, were green lights to me as an ex Xbox fan. And then this happens. So I'm not really sure what the direction is here because they're trying to put games out, but they're closing game studios and then they're keeping game studios that don't produce anything. So, yeah, I'm not really sure. And then you have this giant cloud over Xbox, at least in my opinion. And this giant cloud is, to me, Gears of War E Day. I'm a huge Gears of War fan, and I'm going to admit the new game looks awesome. Like, I wish I didn't sell my Xbox. Like, I wish I could go buy that. But the cost associated, and this is something else entirely that I kind of want to make a video on, just the overall cost of these video game projects that are going through the roof, like astronomical, out the ass amounts of cash being thrown at these projects. It's just, it's mind boggling how much money is going into these games. $400 million for Gears of War E Day. Whew, at $70 a copy, it is an assload, an assload of units to sell for Gears of War. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but Gears of War has not been that hot commodity that it used to be back on the 360. I mean, I have debated going and buying an Xbox for just Gears of War E Day. I love Gears of War. It looked awesome, but I'm a huge Gears of War fan. That franchise means a lot to me. I really, really like Gears of War. Um, but for most people, they're not going to go out and buy an Xbox for Gears of War E Day. So you also have the fact that 400 million, you're going to have to sell a lot of units, but this is strictly a console exclusive. At least they said. I believe it'll come to PC, but it won't be at launch. I'm not actually 100% sure on that. But point being, it's not coming to PlayStation, and that's going to hurt sales even more. So it's going to be only for people with consoles and I guess maybe PC. I'm not 100% sure if it's coming to PC. Let me check real quick. Okay, so I just got confirmation it is coming to PC. So you're going to have it on PC, but then you also have this Game Pass problem, which it's coming to Game Pass. So you're losing out on a lot of sales right there. And I know you hiked the price of Game Pass, but you burnt so many people on that 50% price increase. I mean, I sold my Xbox. It went up 50%. I sold my Xbox. I said, I'm done with this, and I sold it. The day after they hiked the price, I got rid of the system. Um, and I think that was the case for a lot of people. A lot of people, especially with the digital only console, which is what I had, I couldn't justify keeping my Game Pass around when they have no product. They don't have anything for me to go play. I already have a PlayStation. I have a PC. What am I keeping this thing for? It's just a fucking $300 coaster. And a lot of people I think are in the same boat. So I think that they're setting themselves up for disappointment and failure, and I think it'll be the final nail in Gears of War. Even though I'm really excited for E Day, you also have, and I'm going to keep this video relatively short, but you also have the Halo problem. They are releasing Halo Combat Evolved onto PlayStation. Now, a lot of people, a lot of Xbox purists are against that. And a lot of people are actually excited because this is bringing fresh eyes onto a property that has been struggling. Hey, remember when Halo was good? Look at this. You're getting eyes back on the Halo, and hopefully they do it justice so that way at least Halo can have a little bit of momentum going into the next game that they turn out or they churn out. But I think that for Xbox, opening up exclusivity is a positive because they'll make more money. The games will be able to go to a wider audience. Um, but the downside is, I mean, the downside is that it doesn't give you a reason to go buy a PlayStation or to buy an Xbox. Excuse me. But if you're going to put your games on Game Pass, you kind of need to open up exclusivity. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, if you're going to put your games on Game Pass, why not take advantage of putting the games on other consoles? Because all the people who hold Game Pass, you're going to get it. They're not going to buy Gears of War. They're just going to play it through Game Pass. But everyone on PlayStation is going, and PC, well, PC has Game Pass, but everyone on PlayStation is going to have to buy a copy. So it gives you kind of like some extra revenue. And it seems to me that if you're going to keep making these outrageously expensive games, $400 million, you're going to need to open up the floodgates a little. You're going to need more customers to buy your product. So limiting it just doesn't make sense. Now, I've heard rumblings that Xbox is actually trying to break off from Microsoft. I don't know if there's any validity to these rumors, but I did see that, and I think it's interesting. I don't buy it. I don't think that's a legitimate thing that's going to happen. I mean, Xbox without the backing of Microsoft is just a recipe for disaster. I don't think they could stand on their own 2 feet. I think they need the backing of Microsoft, but hey, that's just me. I don't think it can be its own separate entity. I don't know if that was just like a gotcha headline or something like that, but I don't envision that ever happening. Just like I don't envision PlayStation breaking off from Sony. It just doesn't make any sense to lose that kind of backing. I don't know why you would go and search that out. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of talk about that and just the prices of these games. Eventually they are going to have to up the cost of games from 70 to, you know, $100. I think that's coming. I think it's only a matter of time. I thought Grand Theft Auto 6 would be the one to usher that in. But thankfully, I hear that they're being a little reasonable. They're keeping it at the $70 price mark. I really thought they'd be the first to jump it up to 100, but if the games are going to keep going and getting more and more expensive, um, they're going to try and pass that cost on to us. So we've seen it time and time again where these large, massive productions like Concord, like Marathon, all of these games that suck up all these resources and they come out and it's just a dud because they have so much to make up for. And then they get outdone by a one person studio making a game about peddling drugs to a neighborhood. I mean, if you make a good game, people will play it, people will buy it. You have to keep cost in check, and I think that Microsoft might be setting themselves up for failure here. What are your guys' thoughts? Are you happy with some of the changes coming to Xbox? Are you excited for Gears of War E Day? What about Halo? Do you think it should remain a console exclusive, or do you think they should open up that exclusivity and let PlayStation have a taste of what Halo has to offer? Let me know down in the comments. Y'all have a good one. Peace.